This is County Talk. I'm Eric Schmidt. Thanks for tuning in. 2020 was, shall we say, a rough year for the young people of Washington County, and 2021 is turning out to be more like 2020 than any other year before. For economically disadvantaged families here in Washington County, the hardships caused by the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic have been particularly acute. Joining us now on County Talk is Katie Riley. She is the president of Washington County Kids. It is a nonprofit organization that supports out-of-school time programs and summer programs for many of those families. Dr. Riley, thank you for joining us on County Talk. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
For the last 12 months, most of the school-age kids in Washington County have had a large part of their day disrupted, and much of the time has been spent out of school, despite anything that people can do. What's the impact of the pandemic been on our school-age children? Can you see a palpable difference?
It's kind of difficult to say. I think that for a lot of kids, it's been very hard to manage school online. For early childhood, that's probably been similar kind of a situation because their parents may be online and be distracted by little kids having to have attention as well. But for older kids, I think it's been difficult for a lot of them to manage being online. And that's for the kids who are used to doing it. For kids who are not used to being online at all, they've had to master not only that skill, but also having to follow those kind of schedules and everything and pay attention to what the teacher's saying. The teachers themselves have been a lot of times recording their lessons. Kids could watch them over and over again, but may not necessarily want to do that. It's easy for kids to get distracted and be watching something else, playing a game, or not paying attention at all.
What's the impact been on the out-of-school time programs? Have you basically had to cease to exist, or can you continue to provide some of that programming?
There are programs that have been operating, taking care of kids of essential workers and others who can afford it. For the most part, that's still fairly expensive. Forest Grove School District did use some of their CARES money to fund a program, a for-profit program, and served about 60 kids that way. But for the most part, it's been kind of a difficult situation. And then for the providers doing that, if the kids are supposed to be learning at the same time, they may have kids at different ages who are working on different channels and having to do different assignments. And it's difficult for the caregivers to pay attention to those kids and make sure that everybody is on the right track.
So you've had to innovate some out-of-school time programming. This is new territory for you in many ways.
Yes, we try to work on having improved quality of programs, and as well as increasing access to out-of-school time programs, which is so necessary for people who are working these days. And it really affects the economy as well. As we know, many women have dropped out of the workforce because they've had to take care of kids at home and deal with those kind of pressures. Whereas if they have out-of-school time programs after school or, all day care for themselves, they can then engage in the workforce. So it's been quite a challenge there. And not having as much available as is needed it's impacted not only the families, but the economy.
You've been through one summer with the pandemic. You're going to go through another summer, I assume, with the pandemic. How has that changed the summer programming that you're providing?
There was a lot of confusion last year in terms of the state guidance regarding how programs could operate, and there was very little programming. Summer is always kind of a big problem anyway because it's costly to have carry during that time. It's hard to put together schedules. Uh, Parents have told me in the past that it's been a full-time job for them. This year, the guidance has been modified a bit. There's a new draft guidance out regarding daycare and overnight camps. And so they're open for comment from providers at this time. And that guidance then will make a difference in terms of what can be offered this summer. But we are offering a program that we're calling Summer Program Expo on April 14th, where 13 providers as of now are going to be telling parents and guardians what they have available, costs, etc. And this is all virtual. They'll be able to find out what's of it going to be available this summer from those providers. And then they can be in touch with the providers that they want to be in touch with afterwards and see, what they can arrange, what's possible in their area. And so that'll be, I think it's Wednesday, April 14th, and it'll be from 7 to 8 p.m. And people can sign up for that on our website, which is washingtoncountykids.org.
Got it.
And slash events.
Yeah. We got that commercial in. There you go. You're all set. I have to ask you about this. No, go ahead.
I was just going to show we have a flyer out, and I believe your staff have a copy of that. And that activity will be available in both English and Spanish.
Excellent. Talk about, if you will, some of the clients that you have coming from the economically disadvantaged or economically challenged sector of Washington County. I remember being a parent and basically choking up every time I had to pay a pre-K or a daycare cost and the expense that it was then. It has to be prohibitive for a lot of these families today. How do we get these families into those programs, and how do they afford it?
Yeah, it's really a problem for young children, like early childhood. The average cost in the state is anywhere between $14,000 and $20,000 per year. For kids going into after-school programs, before COVID, it was approximately $350 per month for like Hillsborough Park and Rec programs, their BLAST program, or Tualatin Hills Park and Rec, their programs as well. And people have to sign up for those in advance. The Hillsborough Inukai Boys and Girls Club, they have an annual charge during the summer, a nominal charge for after school or for afternoon programs, but they're actually fairly reasonable in cost. But for people who are economically advantaged, if they can do Boys and Girls Club, fine. Otherwise, there are some limited scholarships available from some of the other programs, but the costs can be really prohibitive. And that's why we have been working very hard to try to get some initiative that would help to expand access to out-of-school time programs.
You and I last discussed the issue that you were going to take to the Washington County Board of Commissioners about increasing a property tax levy to fund some of these out-of-school programs. Where have you gone with that, or are you revisiting that issue at this point?
We are revisiting it. We were not successful in being able to put it on the ballot for November 2020. And currently what we were doing is we're meeting with a group of mayors from Washington County to consider what possibilities there might be that they might be willing to support. Our initial initiative was to have a property tax levy of 35 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. That would come out for the average homeowner to cost about $104 per year. That's the cost of about a latte every few weeks or whatever. And so it would not be really costly per homeowner, but it would raise about $26 million per year. And that would be enough to probably have after school programs for approximately 10,000 kids per year. It would really greatly expand the possibilities. So we are still hoping that they will consider that. There's another option that's being pursued as well, and that is Senate Bill 299 would allow the formation of children's service districts throughout the state by petition. And right now we are prohibited from gathering signatures for anything that involves cost. Only the Board of County Commissioners or city councilors could put such an initiative on the ballot. And so Senate Bill 299, which has passed out of committee and is going to be considered by senators on the floor very soon, would really allow that possibility. So we would not have to have the Board of County Commissioners put it on the ballot. We could actually collect signatures to put it on the ballot.
I guess my question would be, why do we have to have a special district? Why can't the school districts themselves do some of this pre-K work? What prohibits them from going into the pre-K business? I know Beaverton's been talking about it.
So one of the problems with the school districts doing it is that it depends on your source of funding. If you're talking about a property tax initiative, there were limits placed on how much property tax can be collected from any individual property. And that limit was placed by Measure 5 and Measure 50 to be $5 per $1,000 of assessed valuation for schools or educational purposes, and $10 total for everything else. And most of the school districts have already hit that $5 limit. And so they're not able to raise funding that way. The $10 limit has not been met in many cases or only minimally met. So that's one of the reasons we had suggested the 35 cents per $1,000. There is another option that is being considered by the school districts as a possibility of having a preschool for all initiative, similar to what's been enacted in Multnomah County. However, that is a tax on high earners. It's an income tax. And that would only serve 3- and 4-year-olds. We would like to see a larger group of kids be able to be served rather than that limited age group. It's an important age group, and we want to see all kids be have the advantage of having support during out of school time. And so it's popular. We're actually considering the possibility of a high earner income tax as a possibility for our initiative as well, just because there's been so much opposition from the mayors and the county for property tax initiative. But we would need to do polling. Right now, we're raising money to be able to do polling and see what voters would really consider and what they think is most important. Do they want to only focus on early childhood? Do they want to also consider older kids as well, kids who are out of school? You may have care available for kids who are in early learning, and they may have siblings who are older. What do you do with those kids who are older during the time that they're out of school? So we feel that we need to think about families holistically and kids holistically and look at a full range of services that need to be available within the county for kids to support kids. We want kids to be successful both in academic life and also as they go into careers and everything, because that benefits them, it benefits their families, and it also benefits the county because those kids then are successful and contribute to the county later as they're adults.
It seems to me that you have a bit of a dilemma. You can't really choose any one of these programs because they all sound so important. They have to be put together, have to be done at the same time.
Yes, I think that there needs to be comprehensive planning. If you just do silos, then it benefits one small group and not others. And so you really have to look at the systems and take a look at what's available already. So, for instance, there's already some funding available for early learning. There's Head Start, Early Head Start. The state provides Preschool Promise, Child Promise. So there are some programs for early childhood, but I agree that for 3 and 4 year olds for preschool, then that's a drop off. Although much of the funding for early learning goes until the age of 5 or 6, and then of course you have school. Kids go into kindergarten and first grade. So what do they do after school during that time? What care is available for them after school? You don't want a 6-year-old going home to an empty house, or even a 7 or 8-year-old. This is really a dilemma. We need to have comprehensive planning.
Looking down the line, who is the clearinghouse? What will be the clearinghouse? Who's going to do it? Who's going to pull it all together?
Well, we had proposed that there be a committee at the county level, and actually in the Children, Youth, and Families Division of the county, that would look at needs and then make recommendations based upon the assessment of needs. So those who need the care and the help most would get that care, that they would be prioritized. And also that there would not be a geographic concentration, that there would also be care provided throughout the county. When we talk about the cities, they're very important, but they do not occupy the majority of the county. We have a lot of unincorporated area in Washington County, and they need to be served as well, the people in those areas.
Where do the school districts fit into this? How do they plan? How do they become part of the planning process? Or do they?
Yeah, currently they're the ones who are looking at the preschool for all option. But we are talking, and we want to work together. We don't want to have any kind of siloed planning. We really need to work together.
So we need to make this a priority in Washington County.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the buzzword is about early learning being so important, and that childhood development, so much of it occurs during that period. It's really an important period. However, there has been more recent research showing that there are other periods in a child's development which are also important. So, for instance, in adolescence, that is another big push in terms of brain growth. And also, it's when kids are learning to be independent and they try out different things. Well, we want them to try out positive things rather than negative things. Rather than being influenced by negative peers where they may end up getting into trouble, we want them to have positive experiences. So, for example, the juvenile department has done some analysis of the kids who have gone through their doors, and they found that approximately 60% of the kids through who come in and are in contact with them have not had any out of school time experiences at all. None at all. No clubs, no involvement in other activities, no after school, nothing. That's really an indicator that those kids are falling through the cracks and they need help. And if there were more after school programs and opportunities for involvement in for adolescents, maybe in clubs, community service projects, this kind of thing, it would really benefit them, and it would probably decrease the numbers of kids who get involved with juvenile department and eventually our public safety programs.
Indeed. And the pandemic probably hasn't helped this at all.
I'm not sure about what the effect is on the juvenile crime situation, and I don't think they've run the numbers exactly yet. So we'll find
Still to
out,
be
though.
determined. Yeah.
Yeah.
Earlier this month, this being March, you put out a press release and it said free parent resources offered. And one of the things that caught me is that this is a session that you're providing to parents free of charge. They have to register to participate. But the topics include, and the first one off the bat really hit me, how to support anxious or depressed kids, what therapists want you to know. Wow, there's a mind-blowing subject just right there, right off the top. We probably have a whole bunch of kids who are anxious and depressed right now. I'm not asking you to go into any depth on what you're going to have your therapist say about it, but why are you offering these kinds of services now?
We have been concerned about how parents have been thrown into this pandemic situation with their kids at home, and they have a lot of challenges. We surveyed providers of out-of-school time programs to ask them what they thought parents could really use some help on. And so these were the top priorities. And so we've arranged for people to conduct these sessions who have expertise in these areas and also have a good conversational manner with parents where they could offer tips and tools that will make life a little bit easier for them. So yeah, the first session's going to be on March 30th, and that's going to be the whole series is every Tuesday night beginning March 30th, and that's from 6 to 7 p.m. It'll be virtual. People can sign up. We already have a number of people signed up for that first session on anxiety and depression, and that will be conducted by a therapist from Sequoia Mental Health Services. The next one on April 6th is going to be conducted by a teacher who is an expert in having STEAM and STEM activities, science, technology, engineering, and the A is for art, and then math. And she has developed these activities at home, even with her own kids. And so they're easy activities. Anybody can do them. It should be a real fun session. The third one is talking about differences. Once again, this is another therapist who's going to be talking about that. Kids notice racial differences at a very early age. And there are differences in their own families. There's differences in their communities. And how do parents talk with their kids about those differences in a positive way and help their kids to deal with those? So the next one on April 20th is helping with homework. This is another former teacher who happens to have 4 kids of her own, and she has developed a lot of tips and tools that are going to be very useful. I've been working with one of my own grandsons who's 12 on his homework, and boy, it's a challenge. I mean, he can get into playing chess or Minecraft or whatever and not doing his homework. This is scary. So
or the temptation for grandma or mom is to do the homework themselves.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So you have to be able to figure out, okay, what's going to be the best way to do this. And this teacher, she's a very fun person, and she also has a child herself who has developmental disabilities, and she has been active with NAMI. And so she has ideas even in difficult situations on how to deal with those challenges. So she's good. And then the final one is a wrap up, but it's with another therapist who will be talking about self-care. Self-care is so important for parents too, so that they can then help their own kids out. And we're not just talking about parents. I need to clarify that too. We're talking about any family member, parents, guardians, people who work with kids at home. These sessions are for anybody working with kids. But
Let's
it was
not
easy
leave
to. I was just going to say it was easy. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's easier. It was easier for us to use the word parents because it's a little bit shorter, but we really meant the series to be for everybody.
Let's not leave grandparents out of this mix either.
Exactly. Grandparents, guardians,
You name it. Aunts, uncles,
family members.
the village. We have the village.
Yeah,
For more information on this, you can go to washingtoncountykids.org. Am I correct?
Exactly. And I believe your staff will be able to put that information
They'll put it up
up.
in post-production. Yeah. We will have it up for everybody to do it. Katie Riley is with Washington County Kids. Once again, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so very much.
This has been County Talk. I'm Eric Schmidt. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you again next time.